this is Cathynan's Herbal ABC, and I'm Cathynan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do about, well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history, and it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I mean, I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Cathynan's Herbal ABC. So yeah, after the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, you know, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up, I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for a pregnant woman to be using each herb. Yeah, and apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. And if that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. I mean, this will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. But yeah, basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Cathynan's herbal ABCs basically going to look like. And we'll see you after this with the first one, which is A for alfalfa. Okay, so this is A for alfalfa. As I told you, this is all in aid of making my little book to leave for my grandchildren. So we've got page 1 is here, and you will see this as you go through. I'm using them to split up the different departments, if you like. Okay, so as I said, the first thing we're going to talk about is the name. So we've got alfalfa. The Latin name is Medicago sativa, and the popular name, especially as loads of it apparently is grown in France, it's a really popular cattle fodder, and it's called Lucerne. So the first caution about alfalfa is to not use it if you have any kind of autoimmune disease, and also not with anticoagulants, not while pregnant, and not with vitamin E supplements. And a very important caution, especially with alfalfa, although with everything you eat really, if you can afford to be so fussy, is of course to buy organic. But I would particularly say this of alfalfa, because prolonged ingestion of commercial alfalfa may cause a lupus-like syndrome. Having said that, alfalfa is amazing. It's anti-cholesterol, it's anti-hemorrhage, an anticoagulant, which of course is why you shouldn't use it with pharmaceutical anticoagulants, a little bit too much of a good thing if you like. Anti-anemia, anti-diabetic. It has 10 times more mineral than any other grain. It promotes strong bones, rebuilds decaying teeth, increases weight and vitality. I've been using it because I've got a couple of things wrong with me. I've had a really harsh winter with it's kind of like a frozen shoulder or an impingement or something going on with my shoulder, and also I'm suffering from, I left my last job before my retirement because I had varicose veins. They weren't cosmetically awful at all, you could hardly see, but I found it very, very difficult to stand for any kind of length of time, and it was a horrible feeling. One of the symptoms is that you just want to cry. That's an official symptom of this form of varicose veins, and it certainly did that to me. And alfalfa has seen me through. I think it's particularly good for leg ulcers, I think is why I started taking it. Yes, it is. It's good for a chronic ulcer. So I got a little wound and it didn't heal very well. And I've been using alfalfa since December last year, and it's really seen me well, and it's definitely so part of the symptoms of my particular illness was that with this shoulder I couldn't really walk or do anything for a little while because when your arms hanging heavy, it's really painful. So because of that, I wasn't eating as much as I would normally eat, and my weight and my vitality both went down quite quickly. And alfalfa's done a really good job of getting me back on top, amongst other things. So it's also used for lumbago, rheumatism, dyspepsia, general backache, fistula, chronic ulcer, as I said, and sinus, ear and throat infections, anything to do with your respiratory tract, some kinds of insulin diabetes, arthritis, which I'm also a bit, I had arthritis as a teenager, so I'm a bit concerned that this is turning into a kind of arthritis in my back. And it's good also for the prevention of autoimmune disorders. But once you've got an autoimmune disease such as lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, it's best to not use the alfalfa when things have got to that stage. Alfalfa helps to granulate tissue, which then contributes to the healing of wounds and abscesses. So this is where it came in for this chronic ulcer. It's used for constipation because it has a really gentle action on peristalsis of the bowels. In other words, when your bowels are bunged up, alfalfa will help you shift that. Drink alfalfa tea often for any uretic problems, as it relieves dropsy, kidney, bladder and prostate problems. It's also used for post-surgery healing. So a very useful herb. So the next part is the preparation of alfalfa. The thing is with making these teas, while the symptoms of whatever you're suffering from is still mild, it's always a good idea to go for the gentlest remedy first. So a pot of tea is often the best option to start with, or including a herb like alfalfa especially into your diet is really simple, a precious thing to do. I saw a lovely video once of a Thai woman who totally fed her family according to what was wrong with them. You know, if the baby had a cold, they ate something that was good for a cold. If the old man had a bad back, you'd eat something that's good for his bad back. And it seemed to me a really wise way to go. It doesn't have to be any less tasty than, in fact, sometimes you'll surprise yourself how tasty these things really are. And alfalfa's certainly one. Used to give it to my kids. We used to call it grass, and I put it on sandwiches or the top of pizzas or whatever they were eating. We'd have a little bit of grass on the top. And that gave me such peace of mind that they were getting such goodness into them. To make the tea, all you have to do is infuse 2 to 3 teaspoons of the dried herb, a little bit more if you're using fresh, because the dried is quite often concentrates the properties a little bit more, so you need slightly less of fresh in a pot of boiling water, just the same as if you were making a loose leaf black tea, not hard. You can do it. So if you haven't got, I know a lot of households haven't got a teapot these days, but you can do it with a cup and a sieve. If not, you can do it with your pan. I've got an amazing kettle. They've brought, I'm pointing to my kitchen. I've got an amazing kettle they've brought out now with the bit that's in the middle of teapots, you know, the strainer bit. In the actual kettle, so all I have to do now is boil it, and it doesn't matter if I forget, it's just there waiting for me. And I've got so that I can drink the tea hot, cold, after it's been there for an hour. It doesn't matter to me. I'm so used to the taste of it, and of course you're going to be a little bit cautious to start with, but I can guarantee you, as the years go on, you don't even hardly have to think about it. You just bung what's good for you that day in. Particularly helpful with things like depression. You know, it's a mood changer. If you can sit with a nice cup of tea and the right herbs in it, your day's going to get off to such a nicer start. Okay, so yeah, just like you make black tea, infuse for 5 to 10 minutes according to your tastes and needs. And again, you maybe won't like the taste of things to start with, but you can. So I'll show you my tea next time. But you can drink these teas. So say I wanted like dandelions. I quite often want dandelions. They're very alkaline. I think they're amazingly good for you, but they're bitter. And I can kind of take the taste, but it's much nicer if I put a little bit of hibiscus or rose or something like that. Roses, if you've got them up your garden, perfectly all right. Wild roses are even better. Their petals are fabulous for tea. Or you can buy them from Indian shops, always have rose tea. But yeah, and the hibiscus as well, for the same reason. Hibiscus is really tasty, really quite sweet, and just makes anything palatable, really. So yeah, according to your tastes and needs. Alfalfa's great to sprout and is ready in days. I've got some here. I treated myself to a very expensive, well, not very expensive, but a big plastic set of green and white trays, and half of them are like filters. and the other half are trays for the water to go into. Bit of a waste of money. I mean, they come in helpful. I use them just as much as, I've got one here, to start my drying process off, you see. But this is what I'm supposed to be sprouting my seeds in, but they're quite disappointing because the holes are too big for the seeds, so the seeds go through unless you put kitchen roll, which I have done. But I went back to this method because it just makes more sense. So you rinse them every day and pour off the excess water. And I quite often drink the excess water. It's got goodness in it too. Yeah, a bit of muslin over the top. Because that's the other thing with these filter things. They're all well and good, but the flies love it. So this is a little bit more hygienic as well, and so simple. Quite often the traditional ways turn out to be the best when you use these things, you realise. So yeah, within 4 days this will be full of. I timed this badly. It's not even starting to sprout just yet. I hope that's what. Yeah, it is on the outside. Yeah, it's not even starting to sprout, but you can see it's going to do its thing. If it's done anything else by the time I get to the end of alfalfa, I'll show you. Okay. So yeah, you can do so. Yeah. So the sprouts. Oh yeah. That's all about what I've just said. You can use the sprouts in meals, as I said, or you can blend them and make a juice, which would be really pokey, and it's got 150% more protein than wheat or corn. So particularly if you're on a no gluten diet, your alfalfa will come in really handy. So to recognise alfalfa, I've got you this botanical drawing. So I have done a drawing, but it's not very botanical at all. So this is a good botanical drawing. It looks very, very much like clover, especially when it's young. Again, be sure to buy organic seeds and plants and take care if you're foraging. And most commercial alfalfa is genetically modified, so it's a very good reason to leave it well alone. And of course, if you're foraging, farmers will spray. So it's a cousin of clover, and as I said, it really does resemble clover, especially when it's young. And you can see the trifoliate leaves with round leaflets, which elongate as the plant gets older. And it has clusters of small pinkish purple flowers. This one's a little bit more botanical, the one that introduces this part of the thing. And to grow it, alfalfa likes alkaline, free draining soil with a pH below 6.2, and it likes chalky or limestone soil. But it grows in most conditions except for really waterlogged. I've got no idea what the pH of my soil is, and it's growing absolutely fine. And I don't think my soil is chalky or limestone either. I think that where I've been growing it is quite a clay soil, but it's not waterlogged. That's the important thing. And it's best to sow it in warm soil at a depth of 15 millimetres or more, and after a main crop, for example barley. And I'll talk more about all that in the permaculture section which follows. Okay, so the permaculture of alfalfa. To start with, I'll talk about the minerals and other things in alfalfa which benefit other plants. So not only is alfalfa extremely good for us, it's also really good for the plants near it too. and there's several reasons for that. Part of that being these minerals: phosphorus, potassium, calcium, sulfur, magnesium, boron, iron and zinc, and it's also full of nitrogen. So first permaculture bonus: alfalfa attracts bees and other beneficial insects. Secondly, it builds organic matter. It stops the soil compacting so that more moisture can be retained in the soil. The soil structure is improved and erosion is prevented. So very precious just for that part of the soil structure. Alfalfa feeds microorganisms. So alfalfa hay, which is just the dried herb, has and used as a mulch, is almost a perfect 24:1 ratio of carbon to nitrogen for the microorganisms to thrive. So you've got this perfect balance that alfalfa literally causes in the soil, which encourages the microorganisms and so improves your soil. So it stimulates plant growth as it contains triatontanol, I hope I pronounced that right, a hormone which promotes root growth, helps photosynthesis and increases beneficial microbes which suppress soil-borne diseases. Alfalfa fixes nitrogen, which it takes from the air and holds in its roots. And then the chop and drop methods, which is so popular in permaculture, leaves the roots in the soil, which then goes to the other plants, and then the leaves make mulch. Now this chop and drop method is just as simple as literally chopping the plant down, maybe chopping it up a little bit smaller and tucking it under the earth, but literally just chop and drop is so much more beneficial than carting the whole thing away and putting it maybe in your compost, which you're then going to have to bring back. Now, a lot of the permaculture philosophy includes your energy as well, and where you're wasting your good energy is doing things like that with your wheelbarrow, lugging your wheelbarrow full of stuff that you've just pulled out of the ground, which had you left in the ground would be benefiting the other plants far more than this awful barren soil that you've left by taking everything away. So the chop and drop method is very popular with me. I don't use a wheelbarrow anymore. And the other thing I do is this lasagna method, where you put sticks at the bottom, then you put your grass cuttings, whatever, weeds, then kitchen compost, then a bit of good soil, you know, you're ready for the garden compost, all that sort of bit, topsoil, all that sort of thing, in situ. So again, you're not running halfway up the garden with your wheelbarrow and then having to bring the usable compost all the way back to your beds. It can all be done there. I love permaculture. I don't double dig anymore. So the other thing that alfalfa does is deters nematodes. So it's very good for tomatoes and carrots. And it also is said to improve the yield and the taste. So why wouldn't you grow alfalfa near your tomatoes and carrots? It stimulates compost as it decomposes very quickly, creating heat, causing rapid decomposition and high nutrients in the soil. So again, you can do that in situ. I mean, there's ways of making compost heat that are really worth it. I've seen a hot compost that you could fry an egg in. And this is a way of composting things very quickly if you need them before tomorrow almost. I think I think within 8 weeks or something, a hot compost will be ready for you to use if you've done it correctly. But normally, yeah, the chop and drop again is doing that job. Obviously not at the same scale if you put a load of alfalfa in your main compost. And like I said, create the conditions for it to heat up amazingly. That would be more, but you can do it by the chop and drop. It's still doing its little job when you chop it down and let it go into the soil. We're all about making things easier for you. I know what it's like to be a mum and wanting to give your kids the best and this lovely organic vegetables and everything, and you end up running yourself ragged. Well, not quite so much with permaculture, because the very clever people have studied this so that it is more doable. You may have to sacrifice what some people see as aesthetics. Depends what your aesthetic is, though. It doesn't upset me that I don't see each plant in isolation with this bare earth around it doing no good whatsoever. It doesn't upset me to see a dandelion next to my carrots. So it's something that some people would find it hard to get used to understand. And it's been our culture to do this regimented kind of growing. And of course it's difficult for people to it's difficult for me to change my ways. Same as it is for anybody else, but definitely worth a try, I think. So it's good for, alfalfa's good for drought resistance as well because of this moisture retention thing. It's also what's called a dynamic accumulator, and that just means that its deep taproot goes down so far that it brings nutrients up right from deep in the earth, so that the plants with shallower roots can take advantage of those nutrients. It's a good cover crop, so you can cut it 3 times a year, once at the bud stage and then twice more, and dig the mulch, as I said, lightly into the soil. And it's great for not leaving your soil bare. So if after your main crop, barley or whatever, after your main crops anyway in your beds, you can plant alfalfa, and that will it will not only keep your soil from attracting the colonizers, those kind of things that we really do call weeds that come creeping in when soil is left bare. With a mixture of chop and drop and the fact that the alfalfa's there in the first place, you won't get such a problem with that. So you won't have to do this back-breaking weeding. And the last wonderful permaculture quality is that the chickens love it. Okay, so this bit's about the phytochemicals. As I said, that's just another name for the chemicals that are in each plant. So in alfalfa we have triterpene saponins, saponin glycosides, alkaloids, isoflavones, coumarins, sterols, 8 essential enzymes, which are amylase, coagulase, invertase, amyloin, peroxidase, lipase, pectinase and protease. We've got vitamin A as beta carotene, and also vitamin B6, vitamin C, D, K and P, and the minerals calcium, magnesium, phosphorus and potassium. So the beneficial actions of the phytochemicals: alkaloids are usually bitter. They contain at least 1 nitrogen atom. That's the definition of an alkaloid. They have diverse psychological effects. For example, morphine, strychnine, nicotine and quinine, and berberine, which is an antibiotic. Some are toxic and harmful, as you can tell from the name. Some are beneficial and some are both. Nicotine, for example, is both. It can be harmful, of course, but people forget and people think that I'm just saying it because I'm a long-term organic tobacco smoker. But there are cases for nicotine. It's antiseptic for a start. So I'm not promoting smoking. I've smoked all my life and I've just given up tobacco. Hooray to me. But yeah, don't be too quick. You know, morphine's pretty dangerous. Strychnine's pretty dangerous, but they all have benefits as well. Can't think of one offhand for strychnine, but the benefit of morphine is obvious. Quinine is another one, obvious benefits. Okay, so saponins are steroidal and so can reduce inflammation and autoimmune conditions and are useful against cholesterol. They maintain both bone health and regulate blood glucose levels. They help prevent cancer and strengthen teeth. Saponins prevent platelet aggregation. They protect against heavy metal poisoning, have a bitter taste and are found in most vegetables, herbs and edible legumes, e.g. peas and lentils. And they're found in alfalfa. And alfalfa's a bit like a pea as well, when you look at it. Isoflavones are chemoprotective, therefore help against cancer. They help against cardiovascular problems, osteoporosis and menopausal symptoms. Coumarins are antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, anticoagulant, antiviral, anti-cancer and anticonvulsant. Essential enzymes that we mentioned before help bodily functions essential for health. They speed up chemical reactions and so are essential for respiration, digestion, muscle and nerve function, etc. They reduce inflammation and increase nutrient absorption. They build muscles, prevent anxiety and prevent gut leakage. The vitamins. So A is beta-carotene in the plant, which converts to vitamin A in the body. It's good for your vision and eye health, contributes to a strong immune system, healthy skin and mucous membranes. B6 prevents anemia, improves the mood, has a positive effect on the brain, prevents nausea in pregnancy. But remember, the alfalfa, the caution not to use in pregnancy will override. You don't want to be using alfalfa for your B6. There's plenty of places you can get your B6 without risking anything. Protects the heart and prevents cancer and aids eye health. Vitamin C heals wounds, boosts collagen and immunity, boosts iron absorption, improves the skin condition, good for your heart, prevents colds and macular degeneration. Macular degeneration is the vision in your middle eye when you start losing the vision in your middle eye. So it's good to up your vitamin C if you think that that's where the way your vision is going. Prevents gout, prevents cancer, helps bones, cartilage, eyes and anemia. It's an antioxidant. It heals wounds and reduces the risk of scarring. It helps brain condition and function. And vitamin D is anti-inflammatory. It prevents osteoporosis, modulates cell growth, aids neuromuscular and immune function and helps metabolize glucose. Vitamin K helps make proteins for blood clotting and bone building, and vitamin P is an antioxidant, benefits blood capillaries, protects against chronic disease and free radicals which lead to cell damage. So the minerals: calcium helps the bone, the heart, muscles, the nerves, prevents cancer and diabetes and high blood pressure. Magnesium keeps the heart rhythm regular, stops blood pressure, reduces cholesterol, helps the bones, especially bone density in old age. Phosphorus, good for growth, maintenance and repair of all your tissues and cells, production of genetic building blocks, DNA and RNA, balances and uses other vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, iodine, magnesium and zinc. So potassium allows nerves to respond to stimulation and muscles to contract, including the heart muscle. Reduces the effects of sodium, e.g. in table salt, on blood pressure. So it keeps your blood pressure down, and it helps to take nutrients into the cells and to remove the waste out of the cells. Chlorophyll is present in most green vegetables and improves general health, boosts energy, protects against illness, stimulates growth of supportive connective tissues, and therefore helps in collagen diseases such as arthritis. Okay, so that's the end of the phytochemicals. Now we come to the herbal law and the magic. Alfalfa is under the influence of the planets Venus and Jupiter. Its astrological sign is Taurus, and it is of the element Earth. Venus in Taurus symbolises prosperity, abundance, money and lack of hunger. You can keep dried alfalfa in a jar in a cupboard to ward off poverty and hunger. It's also used to burn and scatter the ashes outside around your home. Fresh or dry alfalfa can be used in this way, again to ward off poverty. Jupiter is an influence of good luck and abundance again, and also expansion and growth. Taurus is an earth sign and is represented by the bull, hence my painting, my first ever try at using alcohol inks. Is the little bull that you see chewing alfalfa. So this is about alfalfa's relationship with Taurus, the bull. And cattle are the main, as I said earlier, cattle are probably the main consumers of alfalfa in the world. With Venus here, pleasure and enjoyment of life are symbolised. Gamblers used to carry alfalfa in a sachet for luck. Gambling is a very Jupiterian trait, as is generosity. So wearing an alfalfa sachet or amulet may inspire generosity in others. Alfalfa can be placed around a green candle to attract money, or you can keep a pinch of alfalfa in your wallet, in which you should always keep your last coin, keep $1 in your pocket. Alfalfa has a lovely grassy, sunny smell of new mown hay. In tarot, alfalfa is associated with the King of Pentacles, which is the archetype of rigidity, conservatism, organisation and material means. It could be a person, often a man over the age of 35, who is a businessman, a father figure, or someone who is worldly wise. In the reverse, so the more negative view of the King of Pentacles can denote aggression, competitiveness, selfishness, and the slowness and dullness that comes with too much concern for material matters. Pentacles are symbols of money and wealth, and the king has the power to be generous to the people or to use his power selfishly or irresponsibly, gambling his abundance at the risk of causing poverty and hunger to his people. And then we're going to do a quick tarot reading. Okay, so as you can see, I've turned the camera around so that you can look at the cards rather than me. This is our King of Pentacles. So as you can see, he's holding a pentacle and he's also holding the alfalfa that is associated with him. So we're thinking of not only abundance and lack of poverty, lack of hunger. But we're thinking of the quality of the King of Pentacles with his power to assume responsibility for the abundance and good fortune and lack of hunger for his people, or the ability to gamble that way in a foolishly Jupiter fashion and therefore risk the well-being of his people. So I have shuffled the cards quite a lot before. Just giving them a last shuffle before we have a look and see what they've got to tell us about Alfalfa and the King of Pentacles. Okay, so we'll see what comes out. So I'm using my herbal deck at the moment. I'll show you the box. It's lovely. It's called the Herbal Tarot by Michael Tierra and Candice Cantin. There's the box. If you're interested in getting it for yourself. One of my very good friends, I think actually put this through twice, and it's fantastic. I've been using it for years. Not all the herbs, here we go with one, are represented, but quite a few of them are. So first of all, we've got 5 of Cups. That's horsetails. There's another herb actually we're going to use, and I'll read you what it says about the 5 of Cups. It's not usually a very happy card. So the 5 of Cups in this deck, as I said, is horsetail, and it can be preoccupation with loss at the expense of recognition of one's true assets and powers. It could be negativity and the idea that it isn't real unless it hurts, which is a far cry from this abundance and lack of poverty and feeling of well-being that we're after with our King of Pentacles and our Alfalfa. We've got another card here. This is more like it. So we've got 9 of Pentacles. So I suppose the 5 of Cups would certainly be how you felt if you didn't have your abundance and plenty of food and plenty of what you need. So the Pentacles, this is the 9 of Pentacles. So as with the King of Pentacles, Pentacles always means wealth or more literally money, coins. And the 9 of Pentacles is all about material prosperity and wealth. Possibly shallowness. You know, we spoke before about possible selfishness and the dullness and slowness, and yes, shallowness that goes with this taken for granted kind of abundance, I suppose. And there's always this little shadow creeping along behind, maybe to remind you to take note and not be shallow with your prosperity. See if we've got any more for us in this deck, and then we'll have another. Oh, here goes one. There's 2 here. So we've got the Page of Swords and then the Hermit in reverse. So the Page of Swords in this deck is talking about an adventurous, independent, wild and obstinate child, tendency to move swiftly towards a goal, sweeping all obstacles away. So I guess this would be the name of the game if you had this King of Pentacles in reverse, which of course, you know, I put that down that way, but you can just as easily have your King of Pentacles being a negative influence on the people as well as a positive influence. So yeah, if you were thinking about them, Page of Swords could be this Page of Swords could be part of this King's character where he's not careful, he's not responsible, he's sweeping obstacles away just because he can. And the Hermit in reverse is pretty much the same thing in that the Hermit in his right mind, if you like, is always quite thoughtful and slow to act, preferring to think and be peaceful. Reverse meanings. It could be self-delusion, and there's false humility that comes out here as well. Darkness and withdrawal. So this, you know, it's lonely at the top, I guess, with the King of Pentacles. We'll see what the Urban Crow Oracle has to say. And choose a few cards from this beautiful pack. So this is by a lady, I think, by MJ Cullinane, and she lives in Canada, and she spent years observing and painting these crows. Is it Toronto she lives? I'm pretty sure it's a Canadian city. Anyway, it might appear as we go through. So I'll give them a quick shuffle. Beautiful, beautiful cards these are. It's not important which. There's no reverse with these cards, so just make sure they're facing pretty much the right way, and then give them a quick shuffle. Yeah. And just shuffle. So these cards are very nice for a sense of community. These beautiful crows that she's observed over the years and their behaviours to make this lovely oracle deck. And I'll just put them in 3 piles. And we'll see what comes. Nothing yet. Ooh, too many. We've got a bit out of hand there. Hang on a minute. I'll just put them back. Start again. There's a couple there. 3. So growth, so your abundance can lead to growth. And we've got memory and warning. Let's see. So this is the growth card. Beautiful. That's 23. I'll just quickly read. So the oracle cards are a little bit like tarot cards. They're more individual to the people that make them, I suppose. So it says here, crows become more vocal and aggressive when it's time for the young ones to learn how to fly. This is a pivotal moment in the young bird's life, and once this lesson has been mastered, the world becomes so much greater. You too may be at a crucial moment, and the lesson may be difficult at first. Once you understand it, a new world will open to you. Growth directs your attention to areas of your life that have been become remarkably different as a result of gaining a skill or understanding that you did not possess in the past. For example, learning a new language may have opened the door to new opportunities. Developing an understanding of your triggers that lead to sabotaging behaviour or habits can help you overcome a block that once created stagnation. You may pull this card if you're on the cusp of a growth spurt, as a change that will move your life in a new direction is approaching. So I guess this abundance will always, abundance, wealth always bring a sense of growth, and Jupiter is certainly the planet of expansion and growth. Then we have memory. So this is the card. Crows never forget a friend or foe. In a changing populated landscape, these remarkable birds recognise the faces of those who have hurt as well as helped. When crows spot a predator or a known human who has been less than kind, they go into a frenzy, calling out to all that danger is near. They spread the word about the good stuff too, such as people who tend to share their lunch or places where food is often discarded. What is remarkable is they also pass down the memory of their experience to their young. As complex as these birds are, forgiveness does not seem too likely. Memory asks you to examine areas where you may be letting a past hurt or situation impact how you engage with someone today. Are you cautious or holding a grudge? Do you expect others to behave in a certain way because of past behaviour? This could also be, that expression about, is it be careful how you treat people on the way up? Because you might meet those same people on the way down. And I think that's the lesson with abundance and wealth, is that people remember who you were and how you've treated them. And the last one is warning. This card was created during the height of the smoke from the eastern Washington wildfires that infiltrated the city. Crows have scouts that sit high up all over the action to serve as a lookout. It's their job to spot the signs and warn others of danger. Warning indicates the signs are around you, something less than favourable is approaching, and your attention is needed to ensure you have time to react. Warning brings to your awareness the red flags that you may be missing or denying, putting you in a less than desirable situation. From the employer who always pays a day or two late to the partner who never seems to want to be seen together out in public. Too often we make excuses in an attempt to dismiss the warning so as to avoid accepting the reality. Warning signs appear throughout various scenarios in our lives. Sometimes it takes a friend or someone on the outside to point out what we don't want to acknowledge. When this card appears in a reading, consider the signs that you have received. Do they shed light on a situation that you may have been avoiding? So the warning, I guess, is this, about your memory and about not cutting through everything just to get what you want, and to, that it's lonely at the top. This 5 of Cups, be careful of being on the outside and not seeing your abundance as well with the 5 of Cups. Okay, I'm going to finish it there. I think we've gone way over time. Probably going to have to chop this in half, so I do apologise in advance for any bumpy bits in the middle. Okay, and we'll see you again next week for B for Borage.